Hi, this is Rain from Rain Travels. So welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, we are going to talk about how to apply for a Schengen visa to Denmark for tourism or for private visits. So for my followers or my subscribers, you would know that Denmark is close to my heart. My husband is a Dane. However, I have not personally applied for a Schengen visa through Denmark. However, I have helped several individuals to get their Schengen visa to Denmark. So, are you ready? Let's start. So, here is the step-by-step process. For step 1, read about your visa type in the official portal. So, the official portal is NYE Denmark, or New to Denmark in English. So, you can see the link in the description box. Site. This is where you can read about the official instructions from the Danish embassy. So you can scroll downwards and go over the different options that you will have. But for this video, we are just going to focus on the short stay visa. So click on it and it will bring you to the different options. So for this particular video, it will be all about private visits and tourist visits. Okay, so you want to apply for a private visit or tourist visit. Now, in the need to know part, there are two parts here, the need to know and the how to apply. So let's go over to the need to know part first. Here, you will be guided on who needs a visa, who can be granted a visa, what are the conditions, and if you are being sponsored, what are the qualifications to become a host, the validity of the visa, and what the visa entitles or allows you to be able to do. So you can scroll through each of the bullet or subpoints here, but I'd like to point out the part where it says who can be granted a visa to private visits and tourist visit. Why is this important? Because based on your nationality, you will be classified according to 5 main groups. Now, for me, as a Filipino national, I am classified in Group 3. Okay, so Group 3 includes countries whose citizens present a significant risk of illegal immigration to Denmark or another Schengen country. Okay, sadly, that is how they would label people under Group 3. So you can check the different groups, the different 5 main groups to identify where you belong to. Again, based on your nationality. So next off, so what are the conditions? So based on those groups, there would be certain conditions or certain things that you would be able to, you would need. Okay, so these are the different conditions. So you can go through each of them thoroughly on your own. And then the next one is for the host. For private visits, I'll be explaining this one a little bit later on. So for this part, sorry, there's traffic outside. So for this part, there would also be the qualifications for the host for groups 2 to 5. Okay, and also for the validity and the things that you can do on a visa. Okay, now once you're done reading the need to know part, then you can proceed to the how to apply. That is why it is very important for you to read the New to Denmark website. That's why in my step-by-step process, it's number 1. Okay, so for the next part, it's how to apply. So if you are visiting someone in Denmark, the first step is to ask the host to fill out an invitation form. Okay, so this can be done online or it can also be paper-based. Next is gather the documentation. I'll explain thoroughly what this is. Submit your application online, the application form online, and pay the visa fee, as well as have your biometrics recorded. So this will be through VFS or other visa centers. Okay, so that's for the New to Denmark. So step 2, gather all the documents that you would need. So depending on the type of visa that you will be applying for, whether it's for tourism or for private visits, make sure that you download the correct checklist suited for your purpose. Now, when you are done gathering all the documents, here is one tip. Make sure that you organize your documents with the use of paper clips or bulldog clips. So take note, you are not allowed to staple your documents. So make sure that they organize according to the sub-theme or subtopic or the sub-document by using different colors of paper clips and a little note. The next part will be the general requirement for tourism. So the first one would be the application form. So this is filled out online. I'll have a separate video linked to the application form fill out. The next one is a passport-sized photo and your valid passport together with a colored copy of the bio page and signature page. Take note that your passport should be valid at least 3 months after your trip, and it should have at least 2 blank pages and must be issued within the last 10 years. You would also need to supply a photocopy of the round-trip flight itinerary or the airline reservation. Now take note, you do not need to purchase a flight ticket before you are given the visa. So you can watch this video on how to book a free flight reservation. So next one is your travel insurance. So the travel insurance should be valid for all the member states of the Schengen area. It must have a minimum coverage of 30,000 euros and it should cover the duration of your intended stay. Since it is for tourism, you would also need to supply a full itinerary of your trip. So first, write a letter of intent or your cover letter. So you can watch my other videos on how to write your own cover letter. You would also need a day-to-day itinerary. So here is a sample day-to-day itinerary for Copenhagen. So you can contact me and send me a message if you need an itinerary of your own. The next one is a proof of accommodation. So this would be the different hotel reservations for your entire stay. Now take note, the hotel reservation must include or must be under your name. It should have the inclusive dates that you'll be staying there and the contact number and email address of the hotel. As proof of your economic means, each of the applicants should supply their own bank certificate and bank statement. So this must show a regular flow of income with the balance covering the last 3 to 6 months. Take note for Denmark, the amount that you have in your account must be greater than the approximate 500 Danish kroners per day. If the applicant is a minor, he or she would need an affidavit of financial support, proof of financial means of his or her sponsor, and the valid identification of his or her sponsor. So here's a sample computation. Let's say you would like to stay for 15 days. The minimum amount that you would need is 500 Danish kroner per day. So that's at least 7,500 Danish kroner. Now, this excludes the flight cost, your travel insurance cost, as well as food and emergency expenses. So it's a good number if you can double the amount plus the incidentals. Next is you need to provide a photocopy of your previous passport, the passport bio page, and a copy of all the expired and active visas as well as entry and exit stamps in the last 3 years if applicable. This particular one gives the embassy an idea of your travel history, which is quite important to determine whether you have or you will be an immigration liability. You must also provide your proof of family ties to the country. So you may include, if applicable, a copy or a photocopy of your marriage certificate, or if you have any children, the birth certificate of your children. As proof of your occupation, if you are currently employed, you must submit on a company letterhead the following documents: your certificate of employment and your approved leave of absence. You can also include a copy of your company ID, your latest income tax return, as well as payslips for the last 3 months. If you are self-employed in a corporation, then you must be able to submit a copy of the SEC registration, and do make sure that you include as well the articles of incorporation in your personal income. Now, if you are a single proprietor, then photocopy of your business name registration certificate from, if you are in the Philippines, the Department of Trade and Industry, and the latest income tax statement of your business. If you are a student, you would need the following documents: certificate of enrollment from your school ID if you have any. If you will be traveling during the semestral break or the year end, then a certification of reservation or certification of enrollment from your school. If you are traveling within the school year, then you would need to provide a certificate of leave of absence from the school or a no objection certificate from the school. If applicable, you must also provide a photocopy of your own means and property. So this would include land titles or card certificate with the official receipt. So those are the general documentary requirements for tourism applicants. Now, for applicants who are going to visit someone, whether family or friends in Denmark, the first step, or the second step rather, would be to contact the host and ask him or her to complete the VU2 form online. VU2 form is the invitation from your host. So the paper invitation is only mandatory if your host is non-Danish. As evidence of your host's residency in the Schengen area or in Denmark, a copy of his or her passport bio page if he or she is Danish, and if the host is non-Danish, then he or she would need to supply both of these documents. So 1, a copy of his or her residence permit, and 2, a copy of his or her passport bio page. As proof of your relationship to the sponsor, if you will be visiting relatives, so supply a copy of, let's say, if you're visiting your brother, your birth certificates, and if you're visiting your spouse, marriage certificate. In the event that you're visiting your boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, or friends, you can supply any of the following documents. So take note that Denmark is quite strict with the relationship between the inviting person and the reference person or the host. First, you must have a long-term relationship, and that both the host and the applicant are either unmarried or divorced. Second, you should have met in person and have been together within the past year. If the applicant or the host is still registered as married to another person, then the visa will not be granted because Denmark will not consider the relationship as documented. Furthermore, a relationship is not, or a visa will not be granted if the relationship only involves telephone communication, whether written or online communication. So you must satisfy that you have been together for at least a year and that you have personally met. So if you are in a relationship, then for the applicant who is a Filipino, a certificate of no marriage or any certificate that shows that you are single. If you are a widower or a widow, then a copy of the death certificate of your late spouse. As additional proof, you can also include your photos together and other evidence of relationship with the reference person or the host. So this can include, let's say you've traveled together, include a copy of the entry and exit stamps of the country or countries that you've traveled to. If you need help on how to document your proof of relationship, then go to my Coffee page and look for the specific post on proof of relationship there. Next, as proof of your own economic means, the applicant, even if he or she is sponsored, must be able to provide his or her own bank certificate and bank statements. Now, the applicant should have at least 350 Danish kroner per day. So here's a sample computation that I have made. So the required amount is 350 Danish kroners. So let's say you would want to stay for 14 days and it's a sponsored travel. So you would need a minimum of 4,900 Danish kroners in your account. For me, this is my suggestion. You have the minimum amount times 2 plus the airfare cost. So that would be 9,800 Danish kroners plus the airfare cost. So that is a simple way of computing it. The rest of the requirements are similar to the requirements for tourists. Now, step 3 would be to book your appointment. So, book your appointment with the designated visa application center in your country. In the Philippines, it would be VFS. So, once you have booked your appointment, then submit your application on your appointment date. Afterwards, during your appointment date, you will be giving your biometrics, your fingerprints, and your photo will be taken and recorded. Step 6 would be to wait for the result. Now, normally it can take within 15 days. However, if there are further inquiries, it can take up to 45 days from the day that you received an email. So usually, it would be forwarded to the Danish Immigration Service for further checking. As for the visa fees, for the adult, it will be around 80 euro. For children, around 6 to 12 years old, that's 40 euros. For EU family members, or for immediate family only, it's for free. However, with the Danish application website, they would ask you to pay, but then they'll return or refund the money if you are an EU family member. Now, aside from this one, you would also need to make sure you pay for the Visa Application Center service fees. So this would vary wherever you are applying from. Now, for the travel tip, so I cannot stress this more than enough. Okay, make sure that your own financial statements are more than enough to cover the minimum amount required. That is why I am suggesting that you have at least times 2 or double the required amount plus the other costs. Let's say flight cost, insurance, food, and of course for your emergency expenses, whether or not you will be a sponsored applicant. So that's it for the video. I hope you've learned a lot and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Life is a winding road,